Alrighty, howdy, folks. Welcome back to episode 9 of the Suhu podcast. This week, we're talking about the winter habits that quietly undermine your skin. So, if you've been following along with us so far, you know that the change in the winter weather can change a lot about how your routine works and how your skin reacts to its environmental context. A lot of people start to feel more redness, more tightness, maybe irritation or itching in the wintertime. And they start grabbing or reaching for different products or different routines. And today we want to try to reframe that discussion a little bit. Very often, it's not what you're using, but what you're doing. So, Lydia, from your perspective, are you running into more habit driven irritation in the winter or more product driven irritation?
Yeah. One of the ways to think about this is like normally your skin has like a bandwidth and you can kind of like make some changes within that buffer, I guess would be another way to say it. But you have some buffer, right? During the summer, it's humid enough, it's warm enough, your skin is flexible enough that like you can do some quote unquote bad things to your skin and your skin will be fine. It will return back to that baseline. You won't see like continuous irritation. But in the winter, because it's drier, it's colder, you're narrowing that buffer zone, you're shrinking the bandwidth that your skin has to recover. And so some of those habits that you might have been doing and they were fine in the summer are no longer fine in the winter. So I think, it's kind of a combination of things, but like if you are having multiple habits that are kind of outside of that like comfort zone, you're going to start to see a compounded effect on your skin, especially in the winter. So, yeah, I think a lot of times like we have very simple habits that we do, and it just happens that those just keep pushing our skin a little bit outside of that buffer zone.
Yeah, going back to last week's discussion, winter is really stress testing your routine, that low humidity, your indoor heat, cold wind moving between a heated interior and a cold exterior. All of that is, like you're saying, reducing that buffer. So when your skin is reacting more easily in the winter, it's not because it's become more fragile, it's just because the context around you has changed.
Yeah, and I would even say like, the context around you changes and that also shifts your skin's baseline a little bit. So like if we say fragile, like I want to get into that a bit because in the winter, your skin is losing more of the components that make it sturdy. And so in that sense, your skin can become more fragile in the winter and that almost like that lack of structural support is what then contributes to the cycle of like irritation and redness and dryness. So definitely it starts with the context, but if your skin isn't supported properly through that, then you're going to see that security of that structure start to break down, become more, you could even say fragile. You could say fragile.
When we're talking about that buffer, Lydia, the buffer is protecting us in those less stressful environments when we have more humidity in the air, warmer temperatures, etc. But I'd like to make that more concrete. So what are the actual habits that we might not be thinking about in summer that could be hurting us in the winter? I know some things like long hot showers can strip your oils. Washing your face extensively can really mess up your skin barrier. But what's actually happening there? And what do we need to be thinking about more in the winter?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think we think of our skin as kind of this like continuous tissue, but when you zoom in on the microscopic level, right, it's actually composed of all these different things that work together in this like concert to hold the tissue together and do the function. And the function, right, of the skin is to keep things out that are supposed to be out and to keep things in that are supposed to be in. So when you think of like quote unquote bad habits, right? Like we can start with the shower. Our skin has a lot of natural oils, right, on it, a lot of natural lipids. And in fact, those natural lipids respond to temperature. And we've talked about in a previous podcast how in the winter, the temperature is cold, right? So your lipids actually like become less flexible because as you think about cooling an oil down, it starts to go more in the direction of becoming a solid, right? But the reverse happens too. So when you're taking a hot shower, two things happen. One is the heat actually starts to make those lipids a little bit more flexible. And then the hot water, the fact that you're washing yourself and you're also scrubbing your body, is starting to like strip literally physically those like individual lipids away from your skin. And what that starts to do is create these kind of like micro cracks in your skin structure. And it's basically like you're washing your skin a little bit down the drain, right? Like you're losing these like components of your tissue that are so important to hold it together. It's like the glue is those like lipid molecules, right? So yeah, when you're taking a really hot shower, if it's prolonged, especially, and especially if you're going straight from the cold into very hot, just be aware of like how frequently you're doing that. And you're going to need to repair your skin afterwards. And obviously, it's better if you don't take a hot shower. I know for some people that's really
That
hard to
can be
give
a
up.
tough one.
So, my suggestion is if you love your hot showers and you don't want to fully give them up, do two things. One is take your shower more quickly, right? So, like, do maybe if you're going to fully wash your hair or like you have a longer process for like some part of like whatever hygiene you do that in a cooler shower and then finish with warmth. Or if you're like just taking a couple minute shower, then like, do it warm. But if you're going to take longer, start to cool it off. And if you are taking a hot shower, really try not to put hot water like directly on your face or your hair, especially if you are struggling with like any kind of like hair loss or like scalp sensitivity. Hot water is going to make that much worse. Yeah, same thing with like if you do have sensitivity on your skin anywhere, generally speaking, hot water is going to exacerbate that because you are actually vasodilating all of the capillaries and blood vessels that are near the surface of your skin. And that brings with it more inflammation and more potential immune response if you have, some kind of damage or injury to your skin. So yeah, be careful with the hot water for sure.
I am personally a huge hot water shower fan,
Me too.
but my workaround is pretty similar to yours. I'm warm when I'm washing my body, but as soon as I'm starting to work on my face or my scalp, I just crank that heat down. But I will finish, obviously, with a nice little scald on the back.
No, for sure. And same things like if you're going in the hot tub in the winter and stuff like that, that's always like fun. Just like when you come inside, right? Like take care of your skin, put lotion on and oil on or like shea butter right afterwards so you can kind of relock in that moisture. Just be cognizant of the skincare after some of these activities.
Totally. Lotion and oil are your best friends in the winter, let me tell you. All right. So I want to try something a little new. We're going to do a new special segment. Woo! Called This Feels Harmless, but. And what I'm going to do, Lydia, is I'm going to ask you about a habit that might seem like it doesn't really make much of a difference. And I would like you to help us understand when it might be backfiring for us, especially in the context of a winter skin routine. Okay, so here's our first one. Habit number one. Say I've gotten really good at taking cooler showers or maybe cooling it off before I get out of the shower. But now when I'm hopping out of the shower, I feel that water on me. It's real cold. I reach for the towel and I'm just rubbing. I'm trying to get all of that water off as quickly as possible. Is that harmless?
Yeah, so like that's a form of exfoliation, right? Like you're manually scraping skin. And this also, like maybe you have a loofah or something in your shower and you wash yourself with like a rougher washcloth or that loofah. All of these things, right, are creating some kind of abrasive effect on the skin. And so this can be like great once in a while, like if you are using it to remove dead skin cells, or you can think about, when you're getting like a pedicure and they, sand the bottom of your feet a little bit. Like used in moderation, like this type of manual exfoliation can be great for parts of your body. If you have sensitivity anywhere, rubbing it is usually going to worsen it. And so if you're just like blindly getting out of the shower and like, or you're blindly and rubbing yourself like, without care with the towel, or like you're, just kind of like going over your whole body with the loofah, um, just be aware that like that might not be the best for every spot on your body, and usually gentler is better. So if you are looking specifically to exfoliate, you can use really gentle exfoliators like rice bran can be like a really good option. Similarly, like to be careful with like salt, like rubbing salt on your body, and sugar scrubs. Like these can be really beautiful exfoliation tools, but they shouldn't be used all the time. So we should think about harsh towels and other like physical towels and things as another form of exfoliation. So those should not be done every time you're in the shower, every time you get out. Gentle pat dry is usually best. And also that will maximize the amount of moisture you keep in your skin. If you're scrubbing really fast on your body with a towel, you're going to wick away a lot of that moisture that you actually want to try and lock into your skin tissue.
That's awesome. Okay, so by just going from rubbing to patting, we're going to actually let me think about that for a second. So this thing that seems pretty harmless, rubbing ourselves with towels, can actually cause some problems, but it's okay. We could sacrifice a little bit of comfort, take a little bit more time to pat ourselves dry, and we'll reduce any type of irritation or sensitivity we may be experiencing. And we'll also hold on to moisture a bit better, which is really important in the winter. That's cool.
Yeah, and I would say if you're someone like me who gets cold a lot and likes to take warm showers and would prefer it to be dry immediately after they get out of the shower, I would recommend like looking into a really fluffy like bathrobe. Like that can be a good middle ground because that's like super warming. You'll feel really good getting into it after the shower, but it'll be a lot more gentle than like just trying to get your whole body as dry as quickly as you can.
I love that. You don't have to sacrifice your comfort now for your health later. You can find the best of both worlds if you think about it long enough. Thank you, Lydia.
Exactly.
All right. So another habit I know I'm guilty of. I'm getting out of the shower. I'm in a rush. I'm dripping wet, and I'm just trying to throw the products on as quickly as possible because I've got to get to a meeting or a job interview or blah 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 blah. There's no problem doing that, right? That's harmless. Just applying products to dripping wet skin.
Like there's a balance, right? Like, we just said like you don't want your whole body to be like so dry that, you've just like rubbed all of the moisture off of it, but you also don't want it to be like slick wet either, right? So mostly that's because especially if you're doing like actives on your face or like you have any kind of prescription, like it's going to get diluted in the water and it's just going to come off of your face, honestly. And like it's not going to get absorbed properly because the water will just be wicking it away. So what you want is you want your skin to be a little damp, but you want it to be like dry enough that you're not feeling like slickness on your face or your body. And then you can add your lotion or, whatever you're using to moisturize, probably your lotion. And you can add it to your skin right after that. And then if you have the time, what I usually like to do is I like to give my lotion a chance to absorb, and then I will follow with the oil. And that's really the cleanest, like best way to do it is to give each piece the moment it needs to fully absorb into your skin before you move on to the next thing. Because if it's not absorbed, it's just coming back off onto your hands and it's not doing its full job. Honestly, the way I do this, right, is like to save time, I will stack other things in the middle. So like if I don't have to literally leave my house, I will be like, okay, I'm going to take my shower. I'm going to, do some other stuff, come back, put my lotion on, do some other stuff, come back, put the oil on, and then like kind of get dressed and go. So this is one of those things where it's like, if you have to leave in a rush, right? Like pat yourself as dry as possible, put on some lotion, it'll be okay. But if you have the time to like let those things set in, it's better.
I really like that tip, stacking something else in the middle. Because oftentimes, when we're rushing, trying to get things done, we have time to throw on a lotion. And then there is something else that we might need to do. We could go brush our teeth, or maybe there's
Yeah.
something we need to do with our hair, or la di da di da. And while you're doing that, you can let that lotion absorb and then come back and hit it with that oil. And you're not really wasting any time giving your lotion the time it needs to absorb.
Yeah, and it shouldn't take super long. Like if your lotion is so greasy and it never is absorbing, then that's probably something wrong with the formulation, right? Like you might feel like a little, like damp after you put lotion on, but it should really be minimal. The goal is for it to go into your skin, right? Not to like sit on the surface.
Yeah, we're not putting sunblock. We're nourishing and hydrating our skin. All right. So, it's winter time. And I just saw a new Instagram ad for a lotion that's even better at adding hydration to my skin. So I'm trying that. Or I just saw my friend is using a new vitamin C serum, so I'm adding that or I'm switching out my serums for that. That sounds terrible. Give me a second. Constantly switching products. Okay, here's a habit that I've had in the past. My routine doesn't feel very centered or locked in quite yet. So I'm doing a lot of experimentation. I'm trying out new lotions. I'm trying out new serums. I'm trying out new actives. Basically, I'm constantly switching out my products. That feels harmless, but is it?
Yeah, unfortunately, because of how like ads work and how trendy things like pop up on TikTok and Instagram, like it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, I want to try this new thing. And when you really like go back to the basics, like it takes, like we've said before, it takes like 30 days for your skin to really like fully adjust to something new. And also, I think we've said in the past too, but I want to bring it up again. Like if you're putting new stuff on your skin, all of the new ingredients that you're adding to your skin are potential irritants, right? And so some of these products that have like 30 or 40 extracts, like that's a ton of different plant material that you're putting onto your skin that can potentially be irritating to your skin. So, yeah, like every time that you switch out your routine for something new, you are introducing potentially new irritants to your body, but then you're also maybe not giving your skin the full time to like adapt to it to see an actual effect. So my suggestion is to always establish some kind of routine that you're like satisfied with. And then honestly, like, if you have a dermatologist and they're good, then like talk to them about like what actives you really should or shouldn't be using and kind of go from there, right? Like the more trendy products that you buy and try, like ultimately those are usually a lose-lose situation unless you're like really sticking with them and you find stuff that works. So yeah, if you are exploring or shopping for like a new routine, kind of go back to the basics, find your lotion, oil, occlusive, and then slowly experiment with additional products. I think this kind of just goes back to the skin isn't a physical, like the skin isn't some like flat barrier, right? Like it's alive, it has cells, it has all these different processes biologically that are going on. And there's so many different components that can be um, adjusted, right, whenever you're adding new things. And so even though our skin is really resilient, like if you are trying to achieve a specific, level of health or a specific goal, maybe you're trying to, fix dryness or whatever, like it takes a while for your skin to kind of like receive and then adjust and receive and adjust. And those changes happen slowly and incrementally.
Yeah, skin health is a lagging indicator. So you're not going to try a new product and then instantly see the effect the next day. You got to give it time
Exactly.
to even out. So it's clear now that winter is putting a lot of extra pressure on our skin. We're losing our buffers, and habits that feel harmless in other seasons might actually be backfiring when it's colder and drier outside. Is there a general piece of advice that you would give to people when they're evaluating these habits? I know we covered these three, but I'm sure there are hundreds more ways that we are silently holding back our skincare routines in the winter.
Yeah, like it's so interesting because I think a lot of like self care is sold to us in the form of like products and steps and kind of like almost external indicators, but really like your body the best. And like even when you're applying skincare, like I always think about like how can I do this slowly and with intention? Like what am I doing here? In some way, it's like a ritual to take care of your body, right? And so if you start to treat it like that, then I think you can be a little bit more discerning about what you actually want to include. When you really start to think about, oh, I care about the food that I eat, put in my body. Like, well, we should care about what we're putting on our body too. And then you can kind of like go back to the basics and figure out what works for you. But yeah, I would always just suggest, finding a really solid moisturizer, a really solid occlusive, something that locks in that moisture. And then, if you have a good dermatologist, talk to them and be like, hey, these are my concerns. Like, what do you recommend? And, see what they have to say and kind of go from there. But yeah, rely on your internal sense of your body rather than like the external pressure of people trying to sell you.
And I love that framing. I think that kind of highlights this subplot or hidden theme in this winter season that we've been discussing, which is like winter is going to put a little bit of extra pressure on you, but that is an invitation for you to listen to your body and really treat your skincare almost as a mindfulness practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you do that, the more it will become second nature to you as well. And like my own skin health has come a long way. And that's been, a combination of adjusting and finding and then eventually making my own products because I wasn't satisfied with everything. But it was also like a conscious decision to like take the stress out of it and to be like, whatever, okay, like I'm not gonna be stressed about the appearance of myself. I'm going to care about like how my skin is functioning and go from there, and just like stripping it back just a layer and be like, oh, what do I actually care about putting on my body? Less about like, oh, am I meeting the beauty standards that like people tell me I should be meeting?
And the great thing about that is when you start to center your skincare on health, the beauty follows. Like
Yeah,
it's
totally.
not a choice between one or the other. They come hand in hand often.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's absolutely true.
Sweet. Well, to bring this home, products absolutely do matter. We're not saying you can just swap everything out for your 30-in-1 bro shampoo, but your habits really do set the ceiling on how effective your skincare routine is going to be. In winter, your skin's going to do better when friction is reduced, when you can bring down that environmental stress, when you can bring down behavioral stress, and you can just basically eliminate or minimize any unnecessary disruptions. If there's one practical takeaway I hope to leave you with, try to notice your habits before you investigate your products. If something was working for you in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and all of a sudden it's not in the winter, it's likely a behavioral issue. And or not, let's not call it a behavior. It's likely that there's a habit that's working against you and not that your product is suddenly gone bad. Lydia, is there anything you would like to leave our listeners with?
Oh my gosh, yeah, just think about your skin as being alive. All of these like beautiful components working together, and anything that you're doing, should be to support it, and to think about it as this like concert of cells and proteins and fats.
All right. Well, folks, if you want to go deeper, we wrote a full blog post with scientific references and sources. You can find it on our website, suhuskin.com. And then also feel free to leave any questions, comments, or concerns in the comment section below. We love hearing from you, and your input does affect the direction of the podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to read skincare labels when your skin is less forgiving in the winter. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday.